And welcome in, everybody, to Sportsbook Confessions. The new year is upon us, and we are here for you. I know you want to watch these bowl games, and I know you want to bet on these bowl games, but Jeffrey Dawson and myself have been grinding over this because there are 13 different things that have happened to every team. I thought we talked about before we came on the air, Texas last night did not look the same. That game didn't turn out how it would have turned out in the middle of the season at all. Everything was just so completely different. I'm Brady Tinker at DFW Sports Beat, and that's Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest, who has had, by the way, a phenomenal 2022 in terms of helping people make money. Thank you from me to you. Thanks for all the tips. It's been a good year for you. Congratulations. So let's have a good show here on Sportsbook Confessions. We'll start with the NCAA Bowl games, the granddaddy of them all. I will tell you, at our age, and I'm just speaking for myself, I miss Keith Jackson a lot. I miss finding a comfortable chair, getting a nice salty beverage, and settling in for the dulcet tones of Keith Jackson and him getting me excited for the game, whether I knew anything about it or not.
It's funny, the millennials get all excited when Gus Johnson is on. For us, it is the Keith Jackson, the Brent Musburgers, those guys that would just they just had a tone, they had a pitch in their voice that just, as you said, 4 o'clock, butt in chair, Rose Bowl parade till 5:15 kickoff for the Rose Bowl, leading up to the Orange Bowl, and in a good year, God willing, Nebraska playing Oklahoma, Nebraska playing Miami, Nebraska playing someone, but that's for a whole nother show and decade, Brady.
So the quarterbacks are out. We got Tennessee, we got Utah and we got Penn State. I'm excited about this game. I really am. I like the matchup in this game. I'm a Utah fan, and not for any reason other than in the last, 5, 6, 7 years, their brand of football has been something that I've enjoyed watching, whether it be dominance or whether it be coming from behind, whatever. You never wanted to leave a Utah football game was how I felt. The season didn't start perfect for them because we thought maybe they had a chance to be back in the Final Four, and that was kind of gone early.
Yeah, they opened up at Florida. It was a great game. 2-point conversion for the tie or for the win. They went for the 2 for the win. I'm sorry. Come up short. And again, they muscled through the season. They beat USC on that 2-point conversion, but again, didn't finish the deal. Both teams are sitting where they probably at the end of the year when the dust settled deserved to be. A line that opened at 2.5 that stuck right there. I've talked to a lot of people over the last 2-3 weeks, and you talked about the bowl season in general, and with 23, 24 coaches moving, with the transfer portal, with players sitting out to get ready for the draft and the combine.
And late season injuries.
Correct. So you really don't, you have to tread lightly. That's what we've been telling all our clients. Listen, all these bowl games that have already played, I think we've released 2 or 3 team totals. That's it. You have no idea which team's going to show up, which team is not. Here, Vegas has this pegged at 28-24 all day. I think they're spot on. I think it's going to be one of the better bowl games. I lean Utah. Anyone playing this game that likes the Utah side, take the money line, leave the 1.5 points off. If someone wants to get froggy on the Penn State side, take the 2.5, buy the hook up to 3. I don't have a problem with that. Like I says, this is 2 evenly matched teams, 2 great coaches, and 2 programs ascending and moving in the right direction.
Good point. All right, let's go to the Orange Bowl. Tennessee and Clemson at different times during this season, we thought they had a really good chance to be in the Final Four. Maybe we were sort of looking sideways at Clemson a little bit, that maybe it's not quite where the ranking was. But certainly Tennessee was impressing everyone, playing enough defense, looked like an unstoppable offense. So this is really a nice matchup. Clemson -6 is what I had last night before I went to bed, 63 and a hook. On the over and the under. The quarterbacks are not who the starting quarterbacks would have been. I think Tennessee, everything I read says that they really want to win this game for Hooker. They'll miss him. He was a big part of what they did. So Tennessee playing hard for him because they knew he would play balls out in this game.
Vols upset Alabama at home, stumble against LSU, but still had a clear path to win their last 2 games, and they would have been in the Final Four. And in comes South Carolina that put up a 60 burger on them, and the rest is history. Again, 2 teams. I like both squads. I look at Clemson, and I look at one of the better defenses in college. great head coach, the inconsistency at quarterback. And now Tennessee without Hooker offensively have weapons to go for days. A few of their star players are sitting out. The number is 6 now with a 61 over under. I think Vegas has got this right around that 34-27. I lean SEC plus the 6. I just don't like the Clemson quarterback situation.
Yeah.
Now,
Well,
what am I? Yes, and
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to get from Tennessee side at the quarterback, but I
Milton?
know they have the weapons that they can keep up with this Clemson team.
I agree. All right, let's look at number 21 Notre Dame versus number 19 South Carolina in the Gator Bowl. This is a nice matchup. I remember thinking early in the year, I think Notre Dame was preseason ranked 5. So we thought they might be in this conversation all year, and then all year they kind of weren't. So Tyler Buchner is back at quarterback after Drew Pine transferred. That's of all the stories in all these games, things just keep happening. Drew Pine went 8-2. And he's gone. And Tyler Buchner, who thought he was going to be the quarterback all year, who's been sitting all year, is back. So it's interesting. Spencer Rattler was good down the stretch for South Carolina as well. It seems to me, as I look at this, Notre Dame better be ready, even though they're the favored team.
It's funny, Rattler, who was back at Oklahoma, the next coming to I don't know who you want to. I won't say Troy Aikman because Troy ended up at UCLA, but the Baker Mayfield of the world. He was going to be the guy. He transfers to South Carolina. They just pitter-patter throughout the whole year. Then the 60-burger against Tennessee, and then they go to Clemson and upset Clemson.
Right.
This is one of these teams that with the 3-4 week rest didn't need it. If they kept rolling, I'd be all over them. Seeing some late money now starting to come in on Notre Dame. I'm actually looking for that number again. I had a 4 with a 53.5. I got 3.5 with a 50. There is a 49.5. They're expecting a Notre Dame defense to slow down South Carolina here. I think Notre Dame gets it done. I see them winning by 7 or more, Brady.
South Carolina just never really ran the ball very well, and it seems to me that's what they've hopefully been working on for 3 weeks here is at least a somewhat effective running game to supplement this passing game and what they want to do through the air. So interesting stuff. Number 5, Alabama versus number 9, Kansas State. Let me just say off the top of my head, Alabama lost 2 games this year, which I told everybody in week number 2 was going to happen. It's the Sugar Bowl. It's a big bowl. I wonder, just as mostly a fan in this spot, as the guy normally in the middle, how ready are Bama's kids and maybe even some of the coaching staff for a game they didn't ever want to be in, as opposed to Kansas State is in New Orleans. Those kids couldn't be happier. In the biggest bowl game they've played in so long, they end up winning the Big 12 championship. If you talk about momentum and excitement level of what you believe is anticipatory for this game, Kansas State looks like a dangerous team to Alabama. On the other hand, I think Alabama's quarterback is the best quarterback in the country, and it'll be hard for Kansas State to overcome what we know Alabama knows and what that quarterback can do.
This used to be an auto fade, meaning if Bama wasn't in the Final Four, whoever they lined up against, they just were going through the motions.
Right.
I was at in Orlando 3 years ago, and I saw them beat Michigan in not the Final Four setting there. I look at this game, and Saban already had some bulletin board material when he was talking about TCU in Kansas State, that TCU should have been penalized against a team like Kansas State. Now it's just amazing how they get to play each other now. Now here's the catch. No one thought that both Bryce Young and Willie Anderson would play. Get yourself ready, stay healthy, get ready for the draft. They're both in. With that now, Kansas State was going to be that public trendy dog, and then the public said, not so fast, those kids are playing. We like Bama here. Already rumblings of the OC, Bill O'Brien, will be leaving after this game. Rumblings of him coming right down the road to potentially coming to the Patriots. But here I'm looking at this game and this number. I still lean Kansas State. I think the fact that Bryce Young and Willie Anderson are playing, I get that part of it, but I'm not going to get the banana in the tailpipe. I'm going to take the points. I'm going to take Kansas State, and I'm going to sprinkle a little something on the money line there and hope that the Wildcats get it done.
if the country hasn't been paying attention to Kansas State, which I can certainly understand, they have been one of those teams, kind of like Utah, that no matter what, they're not done. Right? They stay in these games. They are not afraid of these games at all. I mean, the big win over TCU in the Big 12 championship was surprising, just based on what TCU had been through and what we think the talent level is, between those two teams. So Kansas State will stay in this game. I'm with you.
And what was the killer all year, Brady, for me, being a Cornhusker fan, is that their quarterback before he got hurt, Adrian Martinez, was a stiff at Nebraska. And then he comes to Kansas State and he looks like the Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, the guy was just lights out. As you said, I like what Kansas State brings to the table versus the Forbes 500, Alabama, just another bowl game. Listen, they're not in that Final Four. Yes, they'll be ready initially, but what happens when they get punched in the mouth a couple times? I like the dog here.
All right, let's get to the big games. Ohio State ranked number 4 versus Georgia ranked number 1 from Atlanta. Seems a distinct home field advantage. Georgia just played there a couple of weeks ago. This one seems like it's hard for me to convince myself in any manner that the Buckeyes, who have been told over and over for the last couple of weeks they shouldn't even be in this group, this is a pretty tough spot for them. Their head coach, Ryan Day, is sort of selling them on, and I would be too, on everyone's disrespecting you. Losing the way you did to Michigan wasn't great, but that was certainly a very good team. We're in the Final Four and we can win a championship. I just wonder, nothing that I read resonates to me that everybody that the kids believe it.
For me, the team totals tell it all. And this Ohio State team was a team that was putting up 37-38 with their eyes closed, get kicked in the junk a couple of times. And then in comes the Michigan game, which they were 8-9 point favorites. There's no way they're going to lose, and just get steamrolled in the second half there. People remember what they saw last, but I will just tell everyone to tread lightly here. This line opened at 6, went right to 6.5. As soon as it gets to 7, it goes back to 6.5. And the ticket count and the money is like 75-25, all Georgia, yet that number won't get over that 7.5. You will know early in this game how effective the Ohio State offense is, but more importantly, how is the Ohio State defense going to match up to this Georgia team? Preseason, I didn't expect Georgia to be undefeated. I didn't expect them to be back in the catbird seat. Hats off to them. I think this will be a hell of a game. I think a great first half, Brady, but I think as in the coffee, the cream will rise to the top, and I could see Georgia in that 7-10, maybe 13-point winning range.
Defending champions, but this is the first time they've been number 1 coming into this scenario, has Georgia. Number 3, TCU, shocked teams and the nation week after week after week, finally succumbing to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship in an overtime game. They take on number 2 Michigan, almost 60, 58.5. Michigan -7 and a hook when I went to bed last night in the Fiesta Bowl in Glendale, Arizona. Michigan was here last year and they were bullied by Georgia. This year it's TCU. That has to feel, at least at first glance for the kids, like something that they would much prefer to what happened last year. Jim Harbaugh has come out and been very complimentary of this TCU team, saying they're a scoring machine. So Blake Corum is out. Donovan Edwards is in, but Donovan Edwards can play. So take me through this game and what I'm going to bet on here.
Michigan showed a lot of moxie. Last year, they get to the Final Four, steamrolled. This year, now they're the number 2 team. I mean, another team that probably wishes they didn't have a month off after their performance against Ohio State. No doubt. This TCU team is the scab that won't go away. In other words, they just keep coming and coming. Duggan had an amazing year. The whole team's had an amazing year. Playing the disrespect card, this number opened at 9.5.
I know.
And it's shot all the way down to 7.5 with a 58. I'm looking here for Michigan offensively to have a great, great day. It's defensively, how much they'll be able to slow down TCU. I think the Michigan team total gets over there. I think, again, another second half, wearing them down on the run game. I got them in around a 10, 13-point win as well.
If you think the underdogs have a chance to win either one of these games, going back to Ohio State, Georgia as well, do the overs hit if the underdogs win? So if Ohio State pulls a win against Georgia, are we automatically, it seems to my eyes that's right. Tell me right or wrong. If Ohio State wins, we're going over 62. If TCU wins, we're going over 58. Or is
yes
it not?
and yes. No,
Okay.
yes and yes. I had to think that one. If you go to the odds to win the whole thing, I think you look at, obviously, Georgia's the overwhelming favorite. Then you have Michigan, last time I checked, at around plus 280.
Yeah.
And then you had Ohio State at around 380. So the look ahead line literally had Ohio State in the rematch, if it was Ohio State, Michigan, favored in that game. So if you think Ohio State's got a shot, you can take them at about plus 4-1 to win not just this game, then to be favored against Michigan. So then you have a little hedge opportunity there. You can come back around on the Michigan side, guarantee yourself a couple units there. But again, I think I would not be shocked if Ohio State won. I'll be honest with you. I think offensively, they have weapons that Georgia hasn't seen, meaning Georgia likes to play single coverage, and Ohio State's got Pittman Jr., who is going to be an elite star in the NFL. He's got the pedigree. He's got the resume. I can't wait to see him on Sundays. But again, if Ohio State turns the ball over a couple times early, if they're chasing 10, 13, 14 points, you're not going to be able to do anything against that Georgia D.
All right, let's go to the NFL. Interesting stuff. And once again, as it's been all season, these over and unders for the most part are overwhelmingly around 40 or 41. The league is so different, which has affected fantasy football like crazy, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. But let's start with the Panthers at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay, I guess, is going to win the NFC South. So, okay. And they're going to take on the Dallas Cowboys, and that will be one that people will want to tune into. But before we get there, Tampa is -3 this weekend, and the over and under I had at 40 and a hook against the Panthers, who were very impressive with that running game, and that's how they like to play football. I still can't figure this out. I really can't. I don't think anybody wants to play Tom in the playoffs. On the other hand, the Panthers running game might be something that keeps them in this game and might allow them to win this game. What do you got on this one?
My initial numbers were 4 and 40. As you said, 3.5 and 40. There are threes out there, actually 3 minus 120s. The inevitable, Dallas versus Tom. That's what the NFL wants. That's what the world wants. But the Panthers,
what they're going to get.
And the Panthers, listen, Tom has looked so bad. I went on a rant earlier this week, man. I said the Pats Nation here for 2 decades. It was never Tom's fault. Have you watched this guy lately? He looks like ass with a capital A. And Mike Evans, nowhere to be found. Godwin's been playing well. I like the rookie running back White. I think they'll find a way. But listen, Brady, this is a Panthers number. It's not -6. It's not -5. It was 4 going to 3. So Tom will find a way late. They'll probably win by 1, but I think the Panthers are a live dog here.
The other interesting thing is you look forward to Dallas and Tampa in the playoffs, which is almost assuredly a thing that's going to happen, is this team, when they won a Super Bowl in 19, played for Tom. That he literally picked the phone and called damn near everybody on the team and said, if you just do your job, we'll get there. And they bought in. They ran over a Kansas City offensive line that wasn't good enough, and they were tremendous. I don't see them playing for him like that now. And now it's out there that he may end up back with you in New England. Where's he going to go? Certainly he's not going to be here. So some of that luster of the power of Tom seems to be leaving, even if they win their last 3 games and head to the playoffs.
Wednesday morning, 3 a.m. Was on Fox Sports Radio with our good friend and colleague, Bernie Fratto. And that was the topic. Where will Tom end up? And where there's smoke, there's fire. Last year, Tom was connected with Sean Payton to head to Miami. Then the Brian Flores fiasco. Payton takes a year off. Tom decides to retire, comes back. keep an eye on Sean Payton going back to the Saints
Mm.
and bringing Tom there, unless, Brady, and you would know this better than anyone else, if Dallas goes to Tampa and loses, Jerry will be on that phone on speed dial to Sean, says, all right, we got a contract ready, fly into Dallas on Monday. We'll get it done.
Yeah, and the only other fly in the ointment there, and I do not have enough insight on exactly it. Jerry's always loved Sean. It's been Sean for several years, especially through the last 3 years or so of Jason Garrett. It definitely has. They'll have to pay for him for one thing. And for the other, they really, really like the Dan Quinn effect. The way, even though the Cowboys defense hasn't been as good the last couple of weeks, Dan Quinn and the way the team, the entire team, but especially his defense responds to him, looks very head coach. And Dan Quinn is still smarting from the Super Bowl loss late to the Patriots. He wants back in. He sort of reinvented himself. So there are a lot of sideways stories here. And the other one is that I believe the Cowboys and Jerry and Steven really, really, really like Mike McCarthy, like him. So now are they willing to make a tough decision if you lose, by a point to Tampa in the first round again, when you've won 24, 25 games in the last 2 years too, I mean, this is a Cowboy team sitting on double-digit wins, 12 games. They've won 12 games 2 years in a row. It hasn't happened since 95, 96. So that's a tough fire if that happens. But could it happen? Yeah, Jerry Jones is old and wants a Super Bowl more than anything. The Browns at the Commanders. The Commanders is a massive game for them. They are -2. And if you're the Commanders and it's a massive game, and by the way, the over and under I had last night was 41, then certainly don't you go out and put Carson Wentz back in.
He is back in.
Oh, I know. And I was being facetious.
I don't get it. Tyler, Mr. Heineke, listen, if they don't love you, listen, I hope you find a spot next year, maybe someone that does love you. You kept them in the game, a team that was on life support.
Yeah.
You got some key wins. Now, maybe it's just the crankiness of Carson Wentz saying, hey, it's my ball. I want to come back. And maybe it's Ron saying, all right, there's the ball, go get it. And then he fails. And then it's just another reason why Carson Wentz won't be back next year. The number was a 1 with a 40.5. I'm seeing 2s out there. The initial number is the Cleveland Brown numbers. Now, listen, Deshaun Watson is another guy that just, ring rust times 10. He just can't get this year over quick enough. So hopefully next year he comes back. Everyone forgets about the past and he can play football. I'll take the bait. I think the Browns upset them. I think that they find a way in one of those 21-20 games. Washington with Wentz has the ball late, a pick, a turnover, or whatever. But I have no faith, zero faith in Carson Wentz.
Historically, with Carson Wentz, this is the game after he's had some time off and he's really healed and he's really been through the offense that he'll play well. It's in week 18 when he will really poop the bed. That's when Carson Wentz will fold. So I'm on the Commanders in that game. The Broncos are at the Chiefs. 12.5 is what I had last night when I went to bed for the Chiefs at home at Arrowhead, over and under a 45. And the Chiefs are hopefully focused because the truth is, of the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals, 3 dynamite teams in the AFC right now, not to mention a San Diego team that's playing, or not San Diego, a Charger team that's playing pretty good, and a Raven team that's just sort of sitting there quietly. The AFC is friggin' loaded. I don't know how the Chiefs respond to this game or how the Broncos respond if they finally got their head coach fired. But the Chiefs, I know, are going to be scoreboard watching, saying, if we can just get Cincinnati, who we can't beat, to beat Buffalo, the Chiefs can ascend right to the number 1 seed again, and everything goes through Arrowhead again.
People remember what they saw last, and that was a Denver team that gave up a 50 burgers to the Rams and Baker Mayfield. Has this team quit a long time ago? You can blame Russ, you can blame Hackett, Buddy Hackett, whatever you want to call him. The team just had a bad year. Injuries to the wide receivers. Another team that just wants this year over. Here's the problem. When's the last time the Chiefs have covered a game at damn Arrowhead, first of all? Second of all, a number like this.
Yeah.
It's a 45. I think, again, is it Pacheco? Is it McKinnon? Who is it this week? Kels? Is it Juju? Chiefs win, no doubt about it. Absolutely guaranteed. Will win the game. Will they cover the 12.5? They'll probably win by 10. They'll be up 27-20 to 3 and they'll allow 10 points late
Yeah.
or, 14. So the final score will probably be something like, I'll say 24-16, something stupid like that.
Yeah, that feels about right. Dolphins at the Patriots. The Patriots, when I went to bed last night, were 2.5-point favorites. The over and under at 41 in this game, completely different. No Tua. I just hope that Tua is okay. I've been worried about him all season. This is the third time unofficially. His parents need to step in. I know that sounds old manish, but I don't care. I've raised 5 kids. Where's his dad? This kid does not need to be messing with his brain. I know this is what he's wanted to do his whole life. This is his dream. He doesn't know anything else, et cetera, et cetera. He's already got $30 million in the bank. Go have some kids. Go coach. Go do something different. And it's ridiculous. None of that's going to happen. But I don't want to see a worst case scenario with this fine young man. So Teddy is in for him. And in theory, Teddy can throw the quick slant. Got 2 wide receivers that run around 4-1s. So maybe the Dolphins have a chance. On the other hand, Belichick's going to be squatting on short crossing routes best he can.
Tua, I think the NFL is going to try to pull something in the off season. I don't know how they'll be able to manage it. If it was me, and I know I can't do this, and I know the union would step in, I would strongly suggest Tua, do us a favor, take a year off. We'll give you a year with pay, maybe 50%. We want to see how this develops because, like you said, there's no reason, absolutely zero reason for him to be playing. And so I'm wishing him all the best. As for this game, Teddy Bridgewater came in as the backup for the Saints last year or the year before, won 7-8 in a row. He's a great backup again,
Yes,
a good manager versus a Patriots team another team that just can't get out of their own way. Mac Jones, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, they just been awful. The funny thing is they control their own destiny. Beat the Dolphins and then beat the Bills, who maybe are resting people because they don't need to play next week. But it's 2.5. I think the Pats find a way, 23-20, 23-17, something like that. Ugly, ugly game. Wouldn't be shocked either if the Dolphins came in, put us out of our misery, and just rip the heart out, and we'll get ready for next year.
If the Patriots lose this game, how quickly does it start? And if you're a Patriot fan or if you're in management, do you really want to think about flipping the script back and having Tom come back for a year or two? Gronk will probably join him. We found out the last 2 or 3 weeks that Gronk actually made a couple of phone calls to Tampa in the middle of the season saying, I might come back. And apparently was not as well received as he thought it might be. So he's like, okay, we'll stay where we are. I think maybe Tom wasn't in a good place. But if you're New England, is it at any cost in the world you'd take Tom for one more season? You think that's how it is? I mean, you're there. You got your handle on this.
This is Pat's Nation, yes. Hollywood, yes.
Certainly.
Bob Kraft, yes. I don't know. I don't think Bill is in on this because two things Bill wants. A, to pass Shula, number one. Number two, to win the Super Bowl without Tom. Mm-hmm. And now Tom's already flown the coop. He won his Super Bowl. Now for him to come back, let's say he came back. Let's say the Pats won the Super Bowl the following year. Well, Bill's sitting there is like, oh, my God, it was Tom after all this. I'd say the fly in the ointment, Brady, would be Jimmy G as a free agent and then Bill going to Bob and saying, hey, that was my guy. You made me push him out. Let's bring him back, and I'll prove it to you that Jimmy was the guy, and give me a couple years with Jimmy G.
And what's going on with San Francisco right now? It would not surprise me, actually, if Jimmy G was available, right? I didn't think so a month ago. Now I think, absolutely. I love that. Okay. The Jets at the Seahawks. I had the Seahawks getting 1.5 last night when I went to sleep, and 42.5. Mike White, it looks like, will be back, coming back from the ribs, which helps Zonovan Knight. When Mike White played, Zonovan Knight, for fantasy players, was excellent. When he was out, he was getting you zeros and ones. It was shocking what the difference was. Seattle also gets Tyler Lockett back. I like this game. I like these two teams. These have been good stories this year. Both these teams have been good stories. I'll bet this is a pretty good game. What do you feel like at Seattle? Still getting 1.5, a home dog?
Well, Zach Wilson, and now you bring in Mike White. And as you talked about fantasy and running backs, it is night and day, no pun intended there.
I don't believe you.
That how this Jets offense has responded. Now, the Geno Smith amazing run him and coach had to start the year was amazing. Now they've kind of crashed. Kind of surprised here with the Jets being a small favorite. The public buying into the Mike White thing. The more I look at this game, I get it, but I think Coach and Gino have the last laugh here. I see a hard fought. Maybe Mike makes a couple late mistakes. The 12th man prevails here. I could see a 23-17 Seattle win.
Interesting what the emotions might be for the Jets, too. I mean, really, their loss last week, they were done. When they left the field, we're done. And then the weekend went like this. Miami loses, New England loses, Las Vegas loses, Cleveland loses. Wait a minute, we're not done. Let's go to Seattle. Are they renewed? Is there a rush of enthusiasm, or did the bottom fall out and a season that was really just on the brink of being something special is screwed by a quarterback situation that's not very good? It'll be interesting to see what you get from the Jets. I know who Saleh is and how he coaches. If they play a fantastic game, boy, is it a gold star for Robert Saleh for the ups and downs that team has had. The Vikings at the Packers. I know Detroit and the Vikings were like, I thought we were past this, right? The Ayahuasca wasn't working. The man bun was too tight. The Packers are now favored. They are 3.5 last night when I went to bed. The over-and-under is 48. Does Christian Watson play? Probably for fantasy players and in this game. You've got to know. Okay, so that to me is big. He was getting his mojo going, certainly with Christian Watson, who now stop for a point, just a second, and take me through fantasy. And you're in the room next year. Is Christian Watson drafted in your mind, if Rodgers is playing, as a number 1 wide receiver? Sidebar.
Back to Watson initially, I'm saying no. Now, it's not confirmed, but everyone I've talked to all week, he hasn't been practicing. Keep an eye, obviously, on the practice.
Aaron Jones today as well. So,
yes, it could be the A.J. Dillon, Romeo Doubs, and Lazard show. Christian Watson has got speed and more speed to burn. Oh my God, he gets a step and he's gone.
Runs pretty good routes too. I mean, this is who, when he got drafted, we thought this would happen. Then all of a sudden he was Chuck Knobloch, and it was like, well, I guess it's not going to happen. Plus, Rodgers doesn't give a shit. This is never going to work, and it's flipped in the last 7 weeks.
It's going to be interesting to see what his ADP is in the NFFC.
Yeah.
He is someone obviously to keep an eye on. A lot of teams in the championship rounds with the week to go were able to actually pick him off the waiver wire around week 6 or 7, and they got some amazing returns on it. I will probably be in the bargain end of it and hope that they overpay for Watson, and I'll be on the Romeo, a couple rounds later, hoping to catch lightning in the bottle. But if you got Watson, God bless you. The kid's got some talent. I mean, go back to the first play of the season. He had an 80-yard touchdown, the hands of stone, and he dropped it.
He was 5 yards open. Yeah, something else. Well, so the Vikings ended the Packers NFC North reign just a couple of weeks ago. It just feels to me like all of a sudden the thing that I didn't want to happen is going to happen. That is, the Packers win their last 2 and they're in. Rodgers is in the playoffs. Brady's in the playoffs. We thought this was never going to happen even 4 or 5 weeks ago. But here they are, cue whatever music, villainous, dark music. Steelers at the Ravens. Traditionally one of the hardest hitting. This is a game I always want to watch. Ravens -2.5 at home. Over and under. This is a beauty. I had last night at 35. This is your Sunday night game. If you're a slobber knocker guy and you're missing the old days, just tune in.
This one is first one to 17 wins. Vegas has got Tucker hitting a 48-yarder at the buzzer to sneak it out. Listen, Lamar Jackson, under the assumption again, will not be in the Hundley show. The Steelers, Tomlin, December. I mean, he's just a cash cow. They're just finding ways. Ugly, more ugly. Ravens already in. They're not going to win the division. Obviously, they'll be traveling somewhere. To me, if you're getting 2.5 at your local shops, buy the hook, take the Steelers up to 3, sprinkle a little something, something on the money line, and just pray. That's all. Just pray.
I'm with you on that. This game, neither team got to 17 on December 11th. It was Ravens 16-14. Calais Campbell's not playing. Marcus Peters is not playing. Certainly Lamar. It doesn't even sound like Lamar's close. It really doesn't. Like, it seems to be a real question of whether Lamar will even play in the playoffs. Interesting for him. I feel badly for him. It's been a strange season. He deserves to get paid, but there are a lot of teams in the NFL that probably aren't going to pay him. If you take on Lamar and whatever that number is, 200, 250, whatever, if you take him on, you're changing everything about your offense, and in large part, everything about the way your team plays if he's not in Baltimore. So that I'm really anxious to see that story play out. I thought it was going to be better. I thought Lamar was going to be an MVP candidate, was going to get his money, and I would have been happy for him. He deserved it.
Brady, I just, not to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but our good friend, Mr. David Kula, shouted out saying it was a pleasure playing golf with you in Vegas.
Listen, I love Vegas golf, and it was great playing with him as well. Vegas and desert golf suits my eye. As a longtime golfer who grew up in Kansas City, where we had tree-lined fairways a lot of times, right? Vegas hits me the same way. When I stand up and look out there, you're like, oh, it's a dog-leg left, because the green grass goes this way, and there's no trees, and then where you're not supposed to hit it is brown. So I genuinely love Vegas golf and desert golf. I really do. I had a great time that day. Thank you for the shout out. Monday is Bills at Bengals. These are a couple of really pretty good games. Steelers, Ravens, Bills, Bengals, Vikings, Packers. Pretty good NFL next to final weekend right here, with implications of playoffs everywhere. The line last night was the Bengals +1 when I went to sleep. Interesting. That feels like bait. Over and under was 49.5. The Bills have been the team all year, and we talked about this. Is it punching the gods in the nuts by basically saying from week one that Josh Allen's going to win the MVP and the Bills are going to be number one, and everything goes through Buffalo, where they're sitting here and they really have that opportunity. Josh Allen's not going to be MVP, but they've won a lot of ugly games, 6 in a row in the last 6 weeks. The Bengals seem to be that team that you don't want any part of. Certainly the Chiefs don't. Bengals rolling with 7 wins in a row and look like maybe they're on the same type of roll they were last year, which took them all the way to the Super Bowl.
It doesn't matter who comes in. This Bengals team, Joe Burrow is something special. Now, when he went to the Super Bowl last year in year 2, I compared him to Dan Marino. Dan Marino got to the Super Bowl in the second year, lost to the 49ers, never got back. The more I watch this kid, I go back to about 6 weeks ago when Joe Mixon scored, I think it was 5 touchdowns. They started to get the running game going. Mm-hmm. And then next thing you know, the offensive line is picked up. Brady, no one talks about this defense in Cincinnati that hasn't allowed 17 points in forever. Mm-hmm. Now you're going to come into their house. We know there's 3 teams. There's Buffalo, there's the Bengals, and the Chiefs. You can play those 3 however the way you want. In August, we said the championship goes through Buffalo. You're going to have to circle the wagons in January. Good luck trying to get out of there. Well, we know Pat Mahomes can do it, and we know Joe Burrow can do it. But if you don't have to go through Buffalo, it makes it a little easier. So for you especially, I think you're going to have your orange, your brown. You're going to be a Joe Burrow fan for sure.
No doubt.
The 49.5 money trickling in on Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. I lean Cincinnati. Why do I lean Cincinnati? Because they can move the chains on the running game. Mm-hmm. Mixon, Pirine, where Buffalo's got to get a little cute. They don't know if it's Cook, if it's Singletary. Taking the home team here, it's a gift. I think that Cincinnati should be 1.5 point favorites. Listen, last team with the ball wins this game. How's that sound?
Be a good game. Last week, by the way, Cincinnati was involved in a scoregami game. Did you see that? They won last week against New England and really almost choked away a sure victory. The final score being 22-18, a score that had never been seen in the history of the National Football League. Who's in the NCAA championship game in SoFi Stadium on January 9th, Jeffrey?
I'm going to go chalk. I'll go Georgia, Michigan.
Yeah, me too. And then who wins?
I think Georgia will be 5.5 favorites. I'll go on record and say 34-23 Georgia. They repeat.
I think it'll be tough for J.J. McCarthy in that spot to keep up with the Bulldogs and to rise up, because he's going to have to. He's going to have to be maybe the most effective player on the field to have Michigan win that game against Georgia. We will have at least one more show between now and then as well. Jeffrey, very good stuff. Enjoyed getting up with you this morning. For all of you who joined us and then all of a sudden the world stopped, I lost power here in Dallas and it's 60 degrees and sunny, so I got no idea. I may live in the wrong part of town, but I'm glad we got it restarted. This is Sportsbook Confessions. I'm Brady Tinker for Jeffrey Dawson at EC Sports Invest. I'm at DFW Sports Beat, all things Cowboys, Chiefs, fantasy, and a little bit, because Jeff tells me, about the gambling and the handicapping world. Partner, Happy New Year to you. I will talk to you in a few days.
Happy New Year to you. It's been a pleasure. It's been a great year.
Yep.
2023 will only be bigger, and big things brewing for all of us here. And a shout out to our other link over here, Mr. Dave Sharapan. Wishing all well. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Enjoy the Rose Bowl. We know you'll be keeping an eye on that. And rumor has it you might be at the Super Bowl. So remember us guys over here if you're on Radio Row talking with the big dogs here. And we're always a speed dial away. So nothing but the best.
Miss him tremendously. I like being in the middle of you two youngsters. I'll tell you that. Hope that happens again in 2023. Okay, pal. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the games. I can't wait for all these games. I'm extraordinarily excited. This and a whole bunch of real estate study. That's what's in store for me.
Everyone have a blessed day. Happy New Year. Be safe, and we'll see you next year.